A common problem you get on these Estarli folding bikes is the seat post dropping down, and that happens from when the bike's brand new to well, in my case it didn't go away for a long time. The problem is that you have a clamp, you can tighten the clamp up. There's a little Torx headed security screw on the back of the clamp. Sometimes you have to tighten that a little bit so you get a good deal of resistance when you tighten it. So it's always worth checking that first. You know, you probably will need to use quite a lot of force when closing that clamp to prevent the saddle from dropping. And by the way, the saddle doesn't drop immediately or immediately you sit on it. What happens is, as you cycle along, you go over bumps, and a little bit at a time as you cycle and wiggle around, it will just slowly creep down. Now when you get a new seat post on a new bike, the paint here is fairly smooth, and I think that doesn't help the situation. So interestingly, mine stopped slipping down at about 1,500 miles. Now I don't expect anyone to wait 1,500 miles for a solution. I realised what had happened is that because this has been ridden off-road quite a lot, the dirt has worked its way up here and had effectively scored the seat post so that it was no longer smooth, and that meant that this clamp gripped better. And I know that because I had a warranty replacement on the battery, the seat post, not because of the battery, but because of a wiring issue, connector issue. And when I put the replacement one on, it started dropping down again. Now, one little hack I have done, A, because it drops down, and B, because I do commute with this, so I have to fold the seat down when I take it on a train and put it up again. And I struggle, you see I wear reading glasses, I struggle to be able to see the little markings on the back of the seat. So actually setting it to the right height again can be a bit of effort. You can be you set it where you think's right, you get on, it's wrong, you set it again, you keep having to adjust it. And the reason this matters is that if you have the seat too short, you lose efficiency, and you really notice that you're having to put more effort into cycling. And that hack to help me get the bike up to where I wanted, or the seat up to the level I wanted each time, is just to score a little line in the seat post. Just in my case, I've done it 15-20 mil above the base that the post drops into. So I know visually that I need to have it about that height, about say an inch above that point, and that's the right height. And then as I ride, I can monitor, I can see if it's dropping, and that reminds me I should adjust it again. And I found with that I needed to make a slightly deeper scratch. It wasn't just a case of putting a tiny mark because it would rub off. So what I did is I actually used a hacksaw blade and made enough of a cut to actually cut a tiny amount into the metal. Now, certainly you don't want to cut through the metal. You're just trying to make enough of a mark that will stay there and be visible in all circumstances. If you cut through the metal, one, you're going to make a structural problem with the post and that could fail, but two, you could cut into the battery, which would be a very bad thing to do. So Estarli have just sent me one of these. This is the Shim, or insert, that actually goes in, that goes into the upright, the tube, and then the seat post drops into there, and it just packs the space out. Now I don't know if this is any thicker than the old one, so we can try and see if this makes a difference, and I'm going to show you how we fit that. But again, I don't know until I've tested it whether this will actually help. I'm going to need to remove the seat post from here, and to do that I'm going to need to undo the connector. Now, if you've got a more modern Estarli, it's a quick release one that's actually on the bottom of the seat post. On this older version, it's the cable comes out of the seat post and you screw it into the controller box at the bottom. So if I give that a wiggle, there we go, that's come out. give this a bit of a wiggle. There we go, to get it free. So now it's out, you can see where this has got scored by dirt. And this is the replacement seat post, so it's actually cleaner than the old one. I did in fact give it a slight scoring around here, which is the point where the clamp is, in order to give it a bit more friction. So I used a very, very coarse sandpaper just to go around once, just to rough it up so it wasn't smooth anymore, and that did help. So there's the clamp, there's the old shim, and when I get that out I'll measure it to see if there's any difference between that and the new one. So first, to undo this, we'll need to get that Torx Allen key on here, undo that, and then we should be able to lift this off. That's that loose. Now there is also on here, get out of the way, there is a small grub screw here which effectively goes into, just prevents the whole lot coming loose, so I'll need to undo that as well. That's uses a smaller Allen key. Now be aware that the Estarlis do come with a little toolkit. They come with some Allen keys, including the one I used to undo that Torx head bolt. They don't include a full range of them, so there might be Allen keys you need to get. One thing you probably do need to get, by the way, is an 8mm Allen key to carry with you in case the screw on the crank on the bottom bracket comes loose while you're cycling. So that's quite rusty. I think I'm going to use some penetrating oil on there, because I can see that that's going to round off if I'm not careful, and then it won't come out. If you don't have actual penetrating oil, then WD-40 will likely do, but penetrating oil is thinner, and so it tends to be better for these situations. I don't want to squirt it too much around here, because I'm trying to make this have more grip, not actually loosen this in here, so I don't really want oil in that surface. Okay, I can tell now that is not going to come off, and if I put more torque on it than this, I'm just going to round off the grub screw, and then I'll end up drilling it out. It may still come to that, but what we'll do for the moment is leave that for a while, maybe even leave that for a day, with the oil to sink in there and to actually do its job of penetrating, and we might be able to, lucky to get that off. If the screw gets damaged, we have to drill it out. It's probably going to need a new clamp on top. Okay, I've left it about 10 minutes longer, and I think, yeah, it's now starting to come loose. So just because you've got a long Allen key, and this is a really long one, this is a much better one, doesn't mean you should use all that leverage. You're just going to ruin the grub screw. And what I'll do is I'm going to, because it's got corroded, I'm not going to just force it to undo all the way. I'm going to just work it backwards and forwards, and each time I do that I'll undo it a little bit more until it becomes loose. There, it's just become loose. So if you don't know what a grub screw is, I'll pull this and you can see. Effectively it's a screw without a screw head. It is just screw, and there's a little hole, a hex hole for an Allen key in the end. So in theory, with that undone, I'm going to screw this back in partially. The reason I'm screwing that back in is I would just lose it in the grass otherwise. And I'll make sure this is completely loose again, because I was fiddling about with this. Actually, yeah, that is starting to come loose now. I mean, I've got a hammer and a piece of wood to protect it, so I can sort of give it a bit of a tap, so gently ease it off. It's coming out. By the way, notice this is on at an angle. It's tempting to install this like that, but that's wrong. It's actually on at an angle. In fact, there is a slot here that needs to line up with the slot in this tube. So there's 3 slots effectively that need to line up. So we'll see that in more detail in a minute. There you go, there's the clamp. That's where the grub screw comes out, and you can see, and this is quite interesting here, there's two marks. There's one mark there and one mark there. So at some point this clamp has moved around. I'm guessing it wasn't tightened properly, maybe in the factory, and it's moved around, which could mean that it's not lining up properly here, and this is not clamping as well as it should. See, we have a plastic shim on this one, right? So the replacement is aluminium. Clearly the plastic is going to wear, but that's not the problem, because this had worn, this was suffering from the problem right from the factory. So there's the old one and there's the new one. Again, if you look down here, you'll see there is a slot here and there's a slot here, and we need to align them. Yeah, that's not too bad. So we'll put the clamp back on and then see how that is with the clamp back on. Again, I'm going to carefully line this clamp up so that the slots line up. There. Do up that grub screw. And I'm going to tighten this up. Not fully tightening it, but that should give you enough to go on. Put this in, let's see if this goes down there now. Right, again, get that to the right cycling height. There. Yeah, that definitely needs to be tightened more. Give it a turn or so. So I'm moving this quite easily, but I found personally that I need to have a lot more tension on this clamp than that. Seems good. Note that this screw here for tensioning, you only screw this up or down while you've got this undone. Don't try and tension it while this is tight, because it won't work. You probably break the Allen key. I'll have to take this into London on my normal commute, see how it gets on. It's worth occasionally screwing and unscrewing this connector here, because it if you leave it on for ages without undoing it, it can be very difficult to undo. Finally check the power comes back on, because you'd be annoyed if you went to use it in earnest and found that it didn't have power. Yeah, we are good. So a few days have gone by since fitting the new shim. This is my other spare one. So how did it go? So I've commuted into London twice with the new shim. And it does seem to be keeping the seat in the right position, but there's a couple of caveats to that. I did have to adjust the handle, so it was really quite tight. I needed a lot of my strength to close and open it to get enough grip, because when I first tried it, I only did it lightly and it still slipped. You've got to have it tight enough so that you are really having to use a lot of your strength to close that. Now, I will keep monitoring it. If I do get any slippage, the inside of this is very smooth, and I'm thinking what I might do is just run some sort of very coarse sandpaper around just the top of it there, just to rough it up very slightly and give it some extra grip on the seat post. And remember, I said I had done the same thing on the seat post, roughed up the paintwork so it was no longer smooth. So that will be sort of my last resort method of fixing it if it does start to slip again. But I'm fairly hopeful actually, so that's good. that does seem to have worked. Okay, thanks everyone and good luck, and hopefully your saddles don't slip anymore.